I'm back. I've procrastinated on doing this review long enough. I was planning to do it like 4 days ago after it came out, and then I got busy watching SEA in China and some Brazil too. Gotta love that region. But this game, this was frustrating to watch. Because I think NME specifically is a very good team. They've got very good players. And their players know what to do. They just make bad decisions in draft, which lead to them losing. Um, in my eyes, at least. Obviously, there were some troll moments. I did a live watch party of the series with a bunch of other people in the enemy Discord. Um, and it turns out that if you troll lane hard enough, you will lose. So yeah, we're gonna sort of go through this. We see we're like starting with the bans. I'm not a fan of Camille, especially right now. I'm not a huge fan of Olaf. Right, like we look at this is what it's gonna end up looking like compared to something like this, right? Where you've got a lot of like the Olaf ban, but no Camille. No Senna ban. Uh, obviously, right? Comparatively here, you see the Senna, you see the Nasus, no Olaf ban. But Echo do get the Jace. Which is why I'm kind of looking at this first pick from Sandwich and being like, it's sus at best. Lebmont is very good on Jace. So are people like Iraqi Zoro and Hoon. Um, yeah. Is this the wrong? No, it's the right one. Yeah. I'm gonna speed this up during draft. We'll probably slow it down to normal speed once I get done with draft. But um, so we see the Lucian, the Renekton. So the problem here is I think the Galio pick was way, way, way too early. Um, I don't think the Galio is honestly that great. Like the priority on the picks here, I think is messed up. I'd also like to say that it's been floating around SEA. Um, as I pull up a picture, Ash Nasus. I'm a big fan of this comp. I think it works very well, especially because you can pick the Senna and not give it over to the enemy team, or like you don't have to pick the Senna, right? So you can pick the Nasus first and then be like, well, you guys pick Senna, but then we pick Ash, which kind of gives you Senna set. And Senna set, I think in lane would lose to the Nasus Ash, because Senna set kind of lose out in poke game, especially because set only can, right, like with set having the relic shield, you lose out on that ability to kind of take that. Yeah. So, right, we got the draft here. And then this is just the draft before swaps. So I wanted to go over this right, just for a few reasons. First of all, bot lane bans, pretty good. I like them. But you don't want to be picking Lux here. Um, Lux in the mid lane is not good. Her utility is like Ziggs, right? Where like the value that you get out of her in the bot lane is much better than the value that you get out of her mid lane. The reason for that being her global ultimate has a lot more presence, right, when you're using it bot lane, because you're crossing the entire map. Two, she's absolutely busted, um, especially when it comes to early laning phases, right, where you can sort of bully people under wave, and like with your support item, you can really take advantage of that double support item and get that gold flowing in. The other thing is that her root is very, very useful, even if there isn't a wave, which isn't true in mid lane. The other thing about this, and the most important one in my eyes probably, is that you can't lane swap her, because if you lane swap her to a solo lane, she's going to get ganked and bullied. You kind of have to keep her mid, which means you're either leaving Ash or Lux. Did I have a picture? I don't know. Okay. As you can see, I will be flipping through these drafts. The other option, right? I talk about it here, but you can ban these two. You could also go for like the Yuumi, Ash comp. Yuumi, I believe, is still very underrated in NA. Not a lot of people picked up on that yet. We're not gonna look at that draft yet. That's game two. Um, yeah. this is sort of a Jin is sort of that like second option, I think, if you're looking for utility behind Ashe. But yeah. So also, everybody should know, this video is going to be long. I'm going to make this video a very long video. I'm going to go through the entire series, pausing at every single moment I want to, because I'm going to talk about this because I think that this game was super interesting. So, starting off, this is a very traditional IMT draft. You have the Leblanc jungle, you got Hoon on this sort of like skill carry in mid. You got like the Charm Gume bot lane doing whatever they want, like they have a good enough matchup they feel like, and then you got Araki Zoro on just a good, nice top laner. Something that I wanted to focus on is Leblanc specifically, because I think that his Jace jungle is bad. Not necessarily in like he doesn't gank well or he doesn't like do the right sort of thing, but I think that the most important part of jungle is level 1. And I think that when you start red on Jace, you're trolling. The reason for that is that you can go your second ability on Jace, and then you can clear either Raptors or Krugs very quickly, right? With your second ability, you get that like mana, you get that wave clear, and then you can clear Krugs, you can clear Raptors very quickly, which allows you to move on to red much faster, which means you're not behind, especially since you get red level 2 off of Raptors and Krugs with the XP that you have. Something that not enough people in Wild Rift do, especially in NA. It happens a lot in APAC, SEA, China, is they start Krugs, and I've been advocating for this a lot. You only want to start red or blue on a jungler that can clear red or blue very fast. Olaf, Shyvana, Evelynn to that same extent. But like, right, like Riven here is basically a half a camp ahead right now because she cleared this Raptors first, which means she can clear red faster because she has level 2. The other thing that's very interesting, right, is I'm not a huge fan of Leblanc's pathing here. The other reason that I don't like starting red is because you have to go red to the Krugs all the way down, right? Versus if you do what a Tide does, you just go boom, boom, right? It's a lot more fluid, a lot more natural, I think, in pathing. And the other thing is that, like, I think in Wild Rift, a lot of people waste a lot of time just kind of walking around doing nothing. And that is a problem that I think needs to get fixed. Runes real quick. So a lot of Jaces, especially in China and Brazil, have been going Electrocute. I'm not a huge fan of Electrocute. I just don't think it's that great right now. I think that you get more value out of Conqueror as Jace. But if you're sort of going for that like spammy cooldown reduction style of build, I think that you can get away with Conqueror. Electrocute. The other thing, right? If you're looking at like big points on the draft and like the runes, Gume, Araki Zoro both running Kraken Slayer means you have a lot of damage. Conquer hasn't really been a popular rune for Renekton unless you're in like a lane building matchup, maybe like Garen where you kind of really, really need sustain, or the right, like, or that, like, if you're like against like a Zed or something in mid, you take Conquer because you need to sustain, like, out sustain the Zed burst. You have the Galio taking Font of Life. Font of Life has been really popular, especially in SEA and APAC. China specifically, Font of Life Yumi, Font of Life Nasus as a support. So like when I talk about this draft, it'd be Font of Life Nasus, Lethal Tempo Ashe, Electrocute Ahri, Conquer Riven, Conquer Shyvana, and then probably Kraken, Fleetfoot Work Senna, Conquer Corki, Conquer Lee Sin, probably. Since it's set support, it's probably gonna be Aftershock and then Kraken Slayer. But like, Font of Life has been sneaking up there in popularity, something to watch out for. And then obviously Jackie, Kraken Slayer on Ashe, I think it's fine. There's not much wrong with it, but I think the most important part about Jackie is that you're going to see him going consistently Ghost throughout this series. And there are certain times where I think Ghost is very good, um, but I think that you lose a lot of value out of Ghost, especially in Wild Rift, because an early boots buy does effectively the same thing that Ghost does. And so I think that Ghost, although it is very good, and I am not going to deny that, I think he's on to something. But I think he needs to come with like a little more, say, precision about where he picks Ghost and why. Those are the two things that, like, if I could have him here, I'd want to know, right? Because where he picks Ghost is very interesting to me. We'll see later in the series he's going to pick Ezreal, and I believe he goes Ghost on Ezreal, which doesn't really make sense to me, right? Because Ezreal has a lot of escapability already. On Ashe, I get it, because it's like, well, Ashe is sort of this immobile AD carry, there's no real reason to take Ghost, and against this, like, Lucian set lane, like, you're not really gonna kill set. Like, the only good exhaust target on this team is like Lucian using ult, which, like, exhaust won't be up enough for that. Renekton maybe, not getting a ton of value because Renekton can catch kind of face tank and he'll still get a lot of value, especially if he's sort of sustaining through those team fights. Jace is probably gonna have already used all of his like big cooldowns, like acceleration, gate, shock blast, before you can get into exhaust rain, and then Ahri. But again, Ahri's like already diving you, and you will probably be charmed and stuff like that before you can really use exhaust. And like, obviously Galio also has exhausts, and double exhaust isn't good. So you're kind of only left with Ignite as your option. Ignite and heal. You don't need to go heal because Galio has Font of Life, and Font of Life provides you that sustain that you need. And then going Ignite doesn't really help you much in this lane, right? Because Lucian's pretty slippery as an AD carry. You're not really going to be able to pin him down and get the kill onto him, especially pre-level 5 without that stun. And obviously for Set, he has that big shield, which means that you're not going to be able to do a lot of damage. You see the mid laners here taking trades. This is kind of where you see a few things. First of all, you know that Meals is going, what is it, the shield, when you get below 35%. It's a bit of an unfortunate trigger here if you actually watch it, because he gets ignited as Hoon starts to walk away, right? Like, it just takes down now. So he loses a bit of value. Still not the worst. And then Ledmont is going to come through and he's going to clear. So a key point that I'm sort of looking for is, what side does Ledmont go to first? So in this game, he's going to mid. Notepad. Right, so I'm going to be keeping notes on where Ledmont goes. So he starts red, goes mid. And the reason that this is important to me is because I'm not sure, and this is just theory that I have that is wildly unconfirmed, but like, I don't know, something about Ledmont's pathing to me just seems off. Like, and I mean that besides level 1. And so I'm trying to sort of confirm that theory, and like, if I'm just imagining something, or if I'm just like actually coping out of my mind. So we're going to see Tybe here, helping to make sure that mid lane doesn't really lose that much tempo, and that they can get their recall off at the same time as Ahri, because Ledmont came through, he helped clear mid. And then, so we can see, I haven't really talked about it much, but Renekton is probably the best top laner blind right now. His only real answer is, say, a Garen or a ranged matchup, and even like into the ranged matchup, if he gets onto you, you're dead. So I think that you have to be able to play Garen if you want to beat Renekton. And like, that is going to be shown later in the series. IMT end up counter drafting against Renekton with the Garen, but yeah, Renekton is just so wildly good. It's like, we're going to see Sandwiches enable get a recall off here. He's hopefully going to stall out the wave, but he's a little bit behind in Renekton, about 100 gold. Other than that, junglers are just clearing. Um, looks like they're at about the same pace. Um, similar amounts of gold. But Lemont has gotten a recall off, while Tybe hasn't, simply due to that ability to like tempo. Right, he was able to go top first since Lemont decided to clear Scuttle after going mid. Right, he went mid and then he went to Scuttle. Probably note that down. But right, he goes mid, then he goes to Scuttle, and then he goes to blue. Meanwhile, Tybe is going to go. You saw it earlier, but he went red. He went Raptors, red, Krugs, Scuttle, mid, and so because he didn't get that prio earlier, Lemont was able to go mid, Scuttle, top lane, clear top, shove in, get recalls, come back out, and so Lemont's a little bit behind Tybe right now, or Tybe is behind Lemont right now in tempo. And then again, just since there's not much going on, since it's never been properly explained to me, I sort of like figured this out through like diffusion of knowledge from other people. Tempo is basically the speed at which you can like make plays around the map, right? Right now, Lebon is able to make plays around the map better and faster, at least in my eyes, right? Because he has tempo advantage, because he's ahead on things like recalls, you know? He's going to be spotted on that ward, so not much here. But they're just, like, he's just stacking a wave, right? Like, Araki's always just stacking a wave in mid. And meanwhile, since they know that Tybe started red, he's probably going to be on red. Because I don't think he's shown anywhere. Yeah, so they know Tybe's not coming towards blue, or like that he cleared blue earlier, because of the ward from Hoon. So, because Levmont started red, he's going to go gank top lane, since Araki Zoro is just kind of, freezing wave. And this is one of the big problems that I have with Shen, specifically, is that his wave clear is so goddamn awful. You can't do anything with his wave clear, which means that you can just kind of stack waves against him, and he just really can't do anything. You're going to see a good Luxult from Meals here to clear wave. It's going to get rid of most of it, but not all of it. Not a fan of this Ash Arrow. I don't know what the intent was here, because it looks like this Ash Arrow is fired at the same time, and it just, like, they just kind of back off once wave is dead. So this is just a bit of mistiming, which, like, you wouldn't know if you hadn't played a ton of Lux Ash. But if you're cross mapping, Lux always moves faster than Ash, so you've got to use your Ash Arrow first and then your Luxult if you're gonna try to do that. And then so, like, this is the other problem, right? Jace is very good because he can run Demolish, and as you can see, Demolish is utterly and totally fucking broken and needs to be nerfed. So like, what a lot of top laners, especially in SCA, will do. NA doesn't do this as hard. They like do this, which is the baby version. This is baby SCA. Okay, so what you'd do if you were actually trying to play the game is you'd push mid, you'd roam top, you'd have like a Garen mid or something, right? Like one of these like characters that's a mid laner, and I mean that in like a sort of ironic sense. A lot of good mid laners right now are not AP. Like, neither of these two mid laners are meta at all in my eyes. So the idea is that you just have three people with Demolish, like you run like a Lee Sin, like a Garen, and then like a Riven mid or something. Right, Garen top, Lee Sin jungle, we're in mid. You clear out wave with Riven, you roam top with all your dashes, you run up there real fast, and then you just proc Demolish 3 times, knock the tower's health down by 2400, you run mid, you clear wave, and then you do it again. It allows you to turret about like 4 or 5 minutes, which is way, way, way too early. And it looks like Jackie just kind of gets caught out here. Seems like he wasn't aware of set in the bush. Which is just like, you can't face check bushes. even if your support's there, also a Tommy hitting that is just way too greedy. And then like you just kind of get this weird scenario where because Lucian is mobile, right? Like he's gonna flash for this, which is I'd say it's not worth it, but you'd probably die if you get hit by this Gallia bolt just due to where Riven is. You know, like yeah. So they're gonna trade 1 for 1, but First Blood is about 200 extra gold, which is always nice, and they obviously got that Demolish proc in top lane, which puts the gold a lot further than you'd like to see apart. Good gold combo. See, that's the real benefit of Ashe Lux and like these global ultimates that allows you to sort of run in and like do things without necessarily having to be there. And so now we're gonna see the classic. You're gonna gank top. And it's very weird that they don't like Iraqi's order doesn't stay for this tower. Because they could definitely break it. And I mean, I suppose they just want to get the recall off so that they're ready for Herald, but Herald doesn't matter compared to first hour. Like the reason that you'd emphasize top lane prio this much, especially against Shen, who's got a really weak top lane, is to get Herald, but Herald doesn't matter as much if you've already cracked open first tower. In that case, it's better to get something like the Mountain Dragon, which gives you stats to stay alive, at least in my eyes. Herald is obviously still very good. Let's not get it twisted. Herald is fucking busted. I think that the value of Herald is a lot better than the value of First Dragon. Anyways, IMT. Oh, they're only up about what 1k gold, which is not bad for the scenario, right? Like if you consider that they've gotten all of the turret plates off top tower, and it's going to fall soon, which is probably like 300, I think, gold. We got what? Boom. Yeah, so it's like it's 21.7, 1.8. Yeah, so it's like 300 gold right there. And so it's like, yeah, like like this is not bad. This is where it starts getting bad. So again, Jackie gets caught out here. It looks like it's just an unfortunate recall just with how where Set was. Like Set gets vision, which allows Ari to hit a charm over the wall. Set can then face breaker, and the support's too far away to do anything. I'm also not a huge fan of recalling right here. I think that if you're recalling right here, you're much safer, especially because Set will just, like, a lot of supports love to walk through this bush and sit right here in this bush. The other thing that people will love to do is just place a ward right here in this area because it's so good for vision. Because you know if somebody's rotating here, if they've cleared Krugs, right? Like if they show right here, you know they're clearing Krugs first, stuff like that. That being said, NME have Mountain Dragon, so like you're not super worried. Gume's gonna get away, and you know they get the counter gank on the Riven and Meals, which is like it's just one of those unfortunate scenarios. Like you think you can kill him and you can't. I'm gonna grab water during this freshly timed ad break. Anyways, I don't necessarily blame that because like you gotta go for those, right? If you're behind, you gotta make plays, and that's why I think that it's a good scenario to make a play there, right? You don't want to sit there and do nothing and keep
as well, but the heroic entrance.
I don't know why it unmutes. Right, so Guman's gonna get a lot of damage there, and they're gonna come in. This is a good flash by Meals, but I just think that except like at this point it's one of those you're probably dead, which he does manage to get out through some heroics, and they get a good counter gank off of. Again, like the global presence in this team comp is very good. You know, you got Sandwich ult, Meals ult, Ashe ult, Jackie ult. You know what I mean. But I don't know. I don't value it that much. The flash there was worth for meals, so you know, one of those scenarios where like I probably wouldn't have flashed, but like if it comes out being worth, I suppose it's worth the risk, especially when you're behind, right? Because this one tower has sort of fed into this large farm advantage for IMT, and it's like, well, this is not good. And like if we look at where the lead is, right? Like the bot lane, not that far behind. Um, the mid lane, again, not that. Mid lane's ahead. And then you just look at the jungle, like 600 gold is negligible, especially when you look at like the what 600 gold is it's the boot upgrade, right? Which is like, especially for Riven, you can kind of like live with that. It's like okay, like it is what it is, especially since they're not building plated. Plated have been sneaking into the meta though, so watch for those. Um, Off topic tangent. But the lead is really concentrated right here, right? Like 2k gold lead almost, or like 1.8 on that Shen by the Renekton, which is entirely concentrated in those the early gank he got into a farm advantage, into a um into a early tower. I don't know can't speak. Good movement from Ledmont there to um avoid that final spark from Lux. Anyways, so talking about build stuffs. Um, First of all, not a huge fan of Ixalis on Galio. So this is again something I've been meaning to talk about. Like everything in this video, I'm gonna say I've been meaning to talk about. Doing air quotes with my fingers to make it clear. But the value of Ixalis CHR is almost purely based in two things. Which is its cooldown reduction, which it has over Dead Man's Plate, and the fact that it provides HP, which is the trade-off with Dead Man's Plate, right? Like, the first item that you're going to go, besides your support item, obviously, is always going to be Ixtalis or Dead Man's Plate. Unless you're playing in China and you're, like, doing some weird shit. Because they will go, like, Force of Nature first, because Force of Nature still provides the movement speed, even though it doesn't necessarily provide, like, the passive that you like as much. But like the reason that you go Dead Man's Plate, right, is for the movement speed and like you value armor in that scenario over the HP. Obviously the passive movement speed from Dead Man's Blade is nice as well, but like you're not aiming for damage or aiming for that good movement speed, so you can get roams off early. Um, I also haven't talked about support roams at all, but we're gonna that's a game two topic for me. The other thing that right, so like comparatively to Ixalis CHR, right, you're trading off health for armor and cooldown reduction for movement speed. And so when the cooldown reduction is worth more than the movement speed, is when the cooldown reduction helps you get to your spammable abilities faster. Nautilus, Leona are the two. Nautilus, Leona, Alistar. Three big ones. Three big ones. Leona's not very good right now, so kind of ignore her. But Nautilus, Alistar. Alistar's been sneaking back into the meta. Nautilus, Alistar. Nautilus, Set. Uh, Ignore that. Yeah, Nasus isn't really comparable. Gragas doesn't necessarily build that stuff first. Again, Yumi doesn't sort of fall into that. Nautilus, Soraka would obviously be the support there. Nami, not really applicable. Nasus, also not really applicable. Set. But, right, like, the idea is that, like, if you're going to play an engaged support, you've got four options. You've got Alistar, Nautilus, Set, Galio. Galio, I'd say being the fourth option. I don't think is that good right now. It's just don't go on tangents, don't go on tangents, don't go on tangents. But the reason that you build cooldown reduction on characters like or champs like Nautilus and Alistar is because those three main abilities where the CD is really gonna impact you, that cooldown reduction, it's so value. It's so much value. It's like insane amounts of value. On Galio, it's not really that much because you're never expecting to get a second taunt off as a Galio. You're like, I'm gonna get one dash, one taunt, and one heroic entrance, or one wins a war, and that's it. That's why they usually go for the movement speed, because that also helps them get into range for things like their ultimate faster. Um, so I think that I prefer that on Galio specifically. There's an argument for Ixtalis, I think, especially with the idea that right, like if you get especially with the idea of like diminishing returns, right? Like the amount of cooldown reduction you get will be always because as far as I know, cooldown reduction works off a scaling percentage, not a like a base number. Because if it works off a base number, then it's just ass on Gallia. But if it works off a scaling percentage, again, I don't know if this is true or not. I haven't tested it, so this is this is just my hypothetical like talking off the top of my head. But if it works off a scaling percentage, you're getting more value on Galio, especially for your ultimate. So I think there's this argument there if it works like I think it does. Um, if it works like that. If it doesn't work like that, not good. Other than that, the problem, I'm not a huge fan of, I'm not a huge fan of staying on bomb heals. I think that if you can, as the Shen, you should always go into Sunfire because that makes your wave clear much better. And so you can really see like what this impact of losing the top tower has had, right? Because now IMT can just kind of roam as this 4-man unit into the top side, and because there is no one who can match, because Niels is on so basically a squishy like Lux, you can't really match the RE in the side lane. You'll get rolled every single time. So you're kind of in this weird scenario where you're like, well, out of luck. That's really why Lux isn't good in the mid lane, right? And why you like bruises in the mid lane. Because you like to do that lane swap, especially post 5. And that's where those, like, the ability to have somebody that can match in the side lane is really good. Yep. Anyways, moving onwards. You see that Jackie is going for the lethality build. The crit build's been pretty popular. Um, as far as I as far as I know, this is the more popular build. I've seen the crit build hovering around. I think that the crit build is probably the one that you build with lethal tempo, and that's why they're going lethality. Lethality just means that they're not going crit. By the way, it's like there is no lethality, but it's lethality items in PC League. I hate PC League, brain. Yeah. This is a good, like, sort of jump onto Gume, taking advantage of, again, like, the global ultimates. You know, you throw the Lux out, you throw the Ashe out. And, like, it's good timing, too, because it allows you to secure the second Rift Herald, which is probably the biggest objective for you right now if you're NME. That said, IMT are going to fight this because they know that 2 ults have been expended, and Sandwich used his, and they know that Sandwich used his as well to get into the fight. So they know that it's 3 ults versus 3 when Iraqi Zoro has his backup, obviously. So it's like it's worth taking the fight. Not to mention you're ahead by 4K gold, which is almost all on Iraqi Zoro. So he's just going to be able to sort of dominate the team fight. Anyways, as like a this team gets away with so much. First of all, I have to critique Asami's use of of giving any of the honey fruit to meals. Um, Especially when you know that there's a lot of poke. Like don't give the honey fruit over. Take all of that. Especially when that's like your passive that you're taking advantage of, you should be taking all that. The other thing is like there is no flank protection from either tank. They just go way too far deep in, right? Like exposing the backline to the flank. And like this is the exact same problem I had with C9, right? Like the front line and the back line are so separated that there's no reasonable explanation. Like there's no reasonable expectation for the back line to do anything. And the back line is where your damage is concentrated, especially in this comp. Meals and Jackie are the ones who do damage. Tybe obviously can do some damage, but Sandwich isn't doing damage. Asami isn't doing damage. It's about Meals and Jackie. And Hoon is going to be able to get back in there for free. They're going to obviously shut him down, but Araki Zoro is at full health and full rage, which means that he will kill you all, because he is 4k gold up. And so Kume respawns, he uses flash, like, I don't know, it's just, and like, they also make time to secure Herald here, like, this is just a very good team fight from IMT, and I think that the enemy team doesn't have the objective sort of in mind for what the team fight is, right? Because this is a front to back comp, and if your front is not next to your back, then you are losing. I hate Braum with a passion. Everyone should know that. If you watch my channel, know that I hate Braum. But this is a kind of scenario where someone like Braum is good, right? Where you take your front line and you just kind of sit on top of them. Alistar can do the same thing, right? You just play dive. You just play peel. I mean, like you're not there to kill. You're there to peel, and that's what you should be doing with Galio, peeling. Yeah, I'm not yeah. So look at Meals, right? So Meals is sort of just getting rolled by Lucian the entire game here, like the entire fight here. And once Meals is dead, you lose half your damage. Meteor comes down, basically zoning you out of the fight. It's it's Tybe and Sandwich left, which isn't enough damage to contest anything. Like it's poor protection of the backline, which is like what I wanted to highlight. Okay, well now that I've got time, I want to talk about the early support roams that we're not doing. Charm is notorious, or I shouldn't say notorious, but NA is notorious as a region for being bad at roaming, at least in my eyes. The amount of times that we don't roam early, like in China, it's a fanfare top at 2 minutes. Like the idea is that if you're playing strong side top, you can just throw your bot laner top. Because especially with support item, roams are really good. Because you can now get your top laner even further ahead by clearing wave. It's also another body to just kind of sit there and sort of, what's the word? Freeze wave. It's just another body to help you freeze wave. Like there was an attempt at like a good catch out here, but again, no sort of old coordination means that it's like, well, you tried. Also, I'm gonna critique the Thorn Mail here. Um, Thorn Mail first full item, I don't think is worth it because the only person who's healing really is Renekton. Like you want your mid laner. People need to understand that mid lane and bot lane have such good applications of Grievous Wounds, and like tanks don't. Tanks applications of Grievous Wounds requires them to get hit and requires them to take damage, which is why you shouldn't do it, because people will just avoid the tanks. And I know that it sounds like easier said than done, of course, right? But at the same time, you should expect people to play around your strategy, right? Like, to a reasonable degree, expect people to play around you. And that's why it's important to have applications of Grievous Wounds, specifically in buying Oblivion Orb and that 180 item that costs 800 and applies Grievous Wounds that builds into Mortal Reminder. You all know what I'm talking about. But that item, those two items are just such good applications of Grievous Wounds, especially early, because they cost 800, they're basically free, right? Like, once you've, and like, they're just a good item. The efficiency on those items, too, for applying Grievous Wounds, ridiculous. It's insane. They've still got like 65, 70% efficiency, which is very good. And they just catch out meals. Like, again, this is like, if you put somebody who, like, I don't want to. The theme of this series will be drafting, because a lot of the obvious criticism is going to be directed at draft, because I think that the drafts have two problems. First of all, they don't appropriately deal with Immortals' team compositions and how they like to build team compositions, which is something that you should be aware of. You are in NA, Immortals is the best team. That's how it's been for the last year. You need to be ready for what they're going to do, because their game plan, they draft the same way a lot. And I want to see somebody challenge that sort of drafting ideal, right? I want to see somebody draft in a way that creates chaos and forces Immortals to play a draft that we haven't seen yet. The other thing that I should mention is that if any of you were watching the starting co-stream, Coach Pew, the coach for Immortals, said that he wasn't coaching. So I'm gonna say that. Um, Obviously, like, if I'm saying stuff, I should be fair to Immortals, and I'm gonna try to be fair to that, and I'm gonna be try to fair to NME. But NME just with Suzaku, I had faith in that team, but the faith I had was that, like, they would figure things out. I haven't. This team is new for NME. I don't know if they're gonna figure it out. So it's my job to try to figure it out if I can figure it out, right? If I can figure out a winning strategy, then I should share that with the world. Anyways, getting off my fucking high horse. So, at this point, if you're NME, the game's lost. You're down 15k gold. You're not going to be able to really find a fight to flip unless they sort of int around Baron. And IMT are just going to walk it down mid, you know? Like, even if you have wave clear, you're going to have to eventually do something. And so they're going to try to walk it down mid. Right, like, they find a good fight here. But, like, the sort of devolving of the team fight is where I have a problem. Like, right here, once you get this catch out on the Levmont, you should, like, try to back off. I mean, they don't, obviously, but, like, now you need to go for Baron. Yep. Anyways, this is a good team fight from NME. Credit where credit is due. Right, like, they catch out what is effectively, right, because they've got, what is it, one man, they got two, and they got, like, Lucia coming around, and they got Renekton down here. And Renekton being the person with the biggest advantage, right, 4k. Everything else is, I don't want to say relatively even, but closer. Like, if you fight a 5v4, you will always have the advantage almost. And you're basically fighting a 5v4 where they have, like, a similar amount of gold to you, which is, right? Like, if you can isolate the team fight into, like, individual separate 2v3s or, like, 3v2s and 2v1s, then you will win the team fight because you're taking fights at a man advantage, right? Like, right here, they're taking an individual 2v1 while the rest of the team zones them out. And that's, like, a really good team fighting. A good Astral leads to, like, a nice catch out on a Ledmont, right? And so once you've caught out the jungler, you can force him down, you can chunk him down and get into the Baron, right? And so now you're just waiting for Gume. Gume's just gonna do whatever he can. The other thing that's important for enemy is to secure the dragon once you secure Baron. The reason for that is that Infernal and Mountain are the best drakes in that order, and then it's not and then it's Ocean. Rip Cloud Dragon, by the way. But like once you have the Infernal and the Mountain Dragon, like even if you have Ocean Dragon on the other team, it's not doing you much. It's only like what I think like 5% health regeneration every 10, 20, no, it's like 10 every 5%. I think it's 5% every 10 seconds. I'm not exactly sure on the exact stats on that one, but it's something around there. Anyways, so if you're looking at the effective stats deficit, I think it's probably about it's probably about like 10k, I'd guess. I mean, Baron doesn't like the Baron stats aren't that valuable. Once you get Dragon, I'd say it's about 9k. Just with how valuable those Dragon stacking stats are. But like if you're enemy here, you want to calm the nerves. You want to just like try to get this Baron power play sort of finished. League terminology. Boy, I love Baron power plays. Interesting choice to go cooldown QSS instead of saying going like tenacity into like a stasis or something. I'm personally just not a fan of QSS. I think that if you can react, like if you can QSS it, just try to predict it and stasis it instead, because stasis is almost always better. It lasts longer. It gives you more value in my eyes. Yeah, so that's personal opinion there. I think that it's very debatable about which one is better or worse, stasis or QSS. But like I still think that the amount of stasis value that you get is incredibly ridiculous. And so at this point, I think that you should be backing off if you're enemy, right? This is the exact same problem that I sort of had with Team Flash, but once Baron expires and you don't immediately back off, you open yourself to a lot of potential weaknesses, especially with the fact that like the gold difference is closed, but a lot of that gold has been spent. And if you haven't spent the gold, then the gold is useless. Like you see the Randuin's coming in for the Shen now after he finishes recalling. And so the ability to spend the gold is just as important to have the gold, right? Like Team Flash were playing like they had when I did my Team Flash video, like in my eyes, they were playing like they had something they didn't because they thought the gold lead had closed without actually recalling and closing the gold lead. Glacial Shroud, I guess. Hopping back to item builds. So it looks like Riven build is, I think, pretty standard. I don't know if they necessarily go Yomu's first always, but Death Dance, Black Cleaver, pretty standard. Jace build is pretty standard as well. You got your Yomu's into your Black Cleaver into Sorellos into the res. Anyways, so we're gonna see a team fight. Smile. Lucian build. Interesting that he went Sorelda's third item, or he might have just gone armor piercing third and then finished fire cannon, which I think is more likely. But yeah. And then it looks like it's probably gonna be Bork or something, fourth, fifth. Tenacity QSS is funny and you should never do it. You're just wasting value. Right? Because if you're gonna go QSS, you should go plated. in my eyes, because if you're going QSS, you're going to get rid of the AP anyways, I suppose, or the CDC anyways. I suppose that the reason that he went for the QSS tenacity is due to the AP presence on NME, Galio Lux specifically, right? Like he's worried about being burst down by Lux. But in that case, just go tenacity stasis, or like plated stasis. Which I'm not a fan of going tenacity and QSS. I think that you lose effective value. And the big problem here, right, is that Tybe gets chunked out. And even though he has res, like he can't really find a way to heal. Right, like once you see them on Dragon, you're like, well, I don't really have a good way to heal. And so it's like he's kind of hoping to res and like get a kill or something, and Death Stance resets a few times, and then, you know. And so what enemy end up going for here is the El Clasico of they keep resetting Elder, so we'll just take the inhib, which is good, but so right here you should be backing off. I think that once you get to this point, you kind of open yourself up. And the reason for that is like Riven is the slipperiest snake character I've ever seen. And I'm pretty sure enemy have already heard this stuff, but like it's whatever. And so once that Galio is dead, you're fighting a 4v5. Jace is just going to try to track you down and kill you. And at that point, Tyve feels like he has to get involved because, well, his team is dying. You know. And then Gume just takes advantage of a lot of that. And then they stop the Tyve recall. And so they can just kind of run it down mid and finish the game. Frozen on Galio, big fan by the way. We're doing this sort of falling out of meta on supports, especially like those Gragas style supports that have a lot of AP, mostly because they end up not being tanky enough. Skipping to game 2, yay! Okay, so enemy IMT on blue, enemy on red. I want to suggest a red side drafting technique that no one has considered, apparently, for some reason, but I saw it in China. This is the game. So the reason that I wanted to show this game off is because they go for a Karma Senna trade. This is pre 3.4. I should note that. So Yumi is still as good as she was. That's why she's an auto ban. But the point is that she's still very good. And so like the idea is to sort of explain. So what you do here is you, as red, you have the freedom to leave up both Karma and Senna if you want, which would force, if blue side wanted to, them to ban all 3 Karma, Senna, Yumi of the big 3. This is obviously talking about an older patch, but at the same time, I think that, you know, this is a good strategy against IMT specifically in my mind, for one reason, and that is that you can ban, say, like Gragas, Jace, Renekton, or something like that. And the idea for that is that you would just like you go all in on target bans. So you could go like Olaf, Jace, Renekton, or something. In this scenario, right, like Olaf, Jace, Renekton is a much better scenario than what you're gonna find yourself in here. This, right, where they get Gragas, they get Renekton, and so you're like, well, they've already got 2 super high prio picks. Meanwhile, like, Set is a high prio pick. Galio isn't super high prio, but he's still prio. But the idea is to sort of swap up the drafting sphere. You gotta liberate your mind. You gotta feel the freedom. You gotta like you got to think about it differently. And so like this is something that I've been thinking about for a while, like this idea of a karma center trade. Uh, but it's sort of gotten ruined because at least in SEA, because in SEA they will pick a lot of Nasus Ash, right? So you can so right as I sort of think this out in my mind palace, the idea is that you could also hypothetically do like a Gragas, Jace, Nasus, especially because NA doesn't rate Vi at all. But the point is that you can ban Jace. Ban Jace against fucking IMT. The amount of teams that haven't done this shit and they just haven't clued into it is insane to me. Hold up, how far on I am? An hour. Okay. The real ones will have left by now. The real ones will have stayed. But this is the secret to beating IMT. You ban Jace. Banning Jace is Lebmont's best jungle champion. It's it's the Jax of IM. It's the long Jax of NA, okay? It's that one character that we just can't seem to get rid of and we can't seem to get out of our head. But the point is, right, you ban Jace, because Jace is also really good. I'm just doing this to make it easier to see. Stupid red fucking bar. But the point is, when you take a Senna Karma trade, Red Side has a lot of freedom in how they want to draft because you can do two things. You can put the Karma mid, or you can put the Karma bot lane, which means that Red Side now has draft advantage, which is a big problem, right? Because a lot of people, especially in NA, don't know how to draft on Red Side. This is an easy way to draft on Red Side. Karma Senna trading. The other reason this is very good is that Karma and Senna are both fucking turbo broken, and you cannot let anybody have both of them. But if you have one for one, you're taking the scales, right? You're obviously saying, well, we're gonna let Blue have whatever they want, probably Senna. In my eyes, she's better than Karma. But the idea is that you can then sort of you have a lot more agency then, right? You have the ability to sort of dictate how you want the draft to be as Red Side. And then next game, you can just ban these two again. It allows you a lot more flexibility in draft that people just haven't seemed to think about. Anyways, side note over, okay? We're out. We out. Anyways, as I close out these, I just want people to remember, takeaway from game one, Nasus Ash is a viable combination that is playable. Ash Yumi. This is post patch, by the way. This is patch 3.4. Ash Yumi is playable. Ash Nasus. And now we're back. But anyways, right? Like, if NME had taken the Karma Senna trade here, they could have banned Kragus, they could have banned Renekton. And I think this draft looks a lot different because IMT don't have to ever handle a curveball. I was in Meal's chat earlier, okay? And I'm gonna say the same shit I do in there. IMT gets away with so goddamn much in NA, especially in draft, because NA champion pools are dog, NA drafting is dog, NA macro is dog. It's just inane. And so they're gonna go to Worlds, they're gonna get beat every single time. I can tell you that much in advance. IMT, at the level they are right now, unless they make massive improvements at Worlds somehow, they will get their ass beat every single goddamn time. Because here's their strategy in draft. They're going to pick a prio top laner early. They're going to save counter pick. Especially if you pick support early, they're going to give support counter pick if they can on the blue side. And they don't really care about jungle and mid lane. Because the idea is that Hoon can kind of play whatever the fuck he wants. And so can Lepmont. So if I am drafting against IMT, I target the support pool and I target the top lane pool because there's no point in banning out junglers. There's no point in banning out mid laners. And by God, there's no point in banning out ADCs because those three are good champion pools that are solidified at what I would call a competitive level. So what you have to do is you have to be able to play a top lane matchup that can beat Renekton and can beat Garen. Those are the two things. Anyways, tangent over, okay? We're into the game. As I sort of skip around to get into the game, we're going to talk about draft. Okay, talking about draft. Obviously, I already talked about Karma Senate trades, and I think that it's very important that NA teams learn how to play that. But the other thing that I want to talk about is Ezreal Galio. I think that this lane is god awful, and you're going to get smacked by Nami Varus every single time. The other thing is Charm. Sickle is not good. Please do not play that item. It's bad. Anyways, okay. No more tangents. No more tangents. Anyways, okay. So the point here is that Ezreal is a very pokey champion, and Galio doesn't really come online until level 3. And Ezreal doesn't really do anything for the first, I'd say, 5 levels. Like, you need somebody that has the ability to poke in lane, which is what I think Soraka in this call position really, really does for Echo. And that is why I am a huge fan of Soraka right here. The other thing is that like you can sort of pull up that switch up with like a Galio Soraka, right? You know, they go like a quirky thing, you know, it's a Galio lane, and then they hit them with the Soraka switch up, baby. The other thing, did I not have another one? I thought I had another one. You've got to be kidding me. Okay, well, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, again, Yumi. Ezreal Yumi. Oh, it's creamy. It's so good. People don't rate Ezreal Yumi in this game. It's a big combo in PC League, but I think it's very good. Ezreal plus anyone who gives him sustain in the first 3 levels is good. The other thing is that, like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Jackie's champion pool. That's an entirely different story. I think the reliance on ADCs, especially in this meta, is just really bad. Um, but like ADCs are playable. They're not dog shit like they once were. Like there is a playable ADC. You don't have to lock in Sig's bot, especially post nerfs. The other thing that I want to point out is not establishing control early. When you're playing against Nami and Varus, you should expect to be getting poked a lot. And so you need to be able to establish control of the lane early. And if you don't establish control of the lane early, they're going to take space, right? Like, look at all this. So, right, if you imagine there's a line dividing the bot lane, this side should be your space. It is now their space up until here, because Jackie, bless his heart, wasted like 5 seconds just firing off mystic shots and spawn for extra charge, which is not necessarily a problem, but it's a problem against this lane specifically. The other thing that I want to point out is when we get past this stupid ad, is that Asami went Aftershock as compared to Font of Life, which is a mistake in my eyes, right? Because again, even though Ezreal wants some form of sustain to help him support his identity as like he does a lot of damage once he can get going. So other than that, there's nothing really super interesting to talk about for the IMT side in terms of runes, in terms of summoners. I suppose you could say that taking shield is interesting from Araki Zoro, but I don't think it's necessarily that like cool or unique. Again, Jackie taking sprint, I think is a bad mistake on Ezreal specifically because Ezreal has mobility in his third, like his not mystic shot, his third item, his third ability. He's a little his little warpy hole that shoots out lasers. You know, his third ability, the one that like dashes around, is basically a second flash. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, hopefully. Um, but he has mobility in that, and so I think I think that you don't need a sprint, which is effectively a second mobility spell. I think you'd rather have an exhaust ignite lane. Um, anyways, the other thing is I think that they play a little bit too scared here because they got poked out once. I think that you can afford to run at them a little bit. Like take a trade a few times, you know? What the fuck is this clear from Lebanon? Okay. Okay, ball lane aside. Um going back to the runes. Again, Asami should have gone Fault of Life here. Jackie should have gone Barrier. And Asami should have probably heal is fine, but I'm an exhaust man for life. Obviously I think there's an argument to swap them. Probably better to swap them actually. Jackie exhaust, Asami ignite. But I think that you really want that kill potential on Ezreal. I don't know. I think like at the very least Jackie should not be running sprint here. Not a good summoners. Damn, I'm making good pace. I'm actually almost an hour in. At an hour into the broadcast. So let's ignore the part that I skipped the first 40 minutes. Anyways, this is a dog water clear from Lemont. People are calling Lemont the best jungler since long. This is wrong. This is not a good clear. Like it's a what? So like I should probably notate that like he gets all his camps. Game 2, he's going to start red. Only Raptors plus red. Goes, and then where is he gonna go? Anyways, now that you've seen Lebmont, you should be trying to take as fuck. Anyways, in my eyes, the moment that you see Lebmont mid, you should be rotating and trying to take as much space as possible because you know by God he's going to gank somewhere. And like they just kind of like game 1, right? He went strong side. I'd say would like be the argument. I'd say that right now bot lane is strong side. I'd say that you have a 50-50 matchup top lane. But like this is starting to make me understand one thing. And it's why the KDF jungler would clear blue first when he had bot lane. And instead of pathing towards bot lane, he would path away from them. Because it means that you can't get value out of an early invade. Just wild tangent, okay? My hands are flying around the screen right now, but that's my wild tangent. But that's in notation, right? It's important to draw connections where you can. But yeah, they've given up all control of their jungle, and like they obviously have an inkling, but like right now the lane is lost. You're level 2, they're level 3. You're getting poked out, and Tybe is top. This is a failure on your team. This is not a failure on the bot lane, although it is a failure in draft, and I'd argue a failure in bot lane for not trying to establish some sort of prio earlier. But at this point, it's spiraled beyond you. At this point, you should be getting help from your jungler. You should be getting help from your mid lane. This is exactly what happened last game, except Lemont didn't invade. Wait a second. He goes. Things are. This is the second game that Lemons cleared red, gone mid, cleared mid wave, gone through blue side to gank. Maybe 2 is not a pattern. Again, you'll see him running Demolish. Takes about 200 HP off the tower, which is a very good amount. It's a turret play right there. Anyways, I don't think I need to explain how this game is basically lost. Yeah, so this is one of those games where you're like, well, we're playing for strong side top, I guess. And even though the Wukong gets a full clear of the enemy's blue side can't jungle, it doesn't mean anything. This is just, again, Meals is trying to make a play here. I think he gets, I mean, like, I don't know. There's not much to say there, just unlucky, I guess. And he's just gonna, and now, Lemont, since he has nowhere to gank, he has nothing to clear, he's gonna go gank. And where's he gonna gank? He's gonna gank bot side because it's strong side bot lane that they're level up. 2 levels up on the support and ADC, by the way. That should also be first tower at 3 minutes, by the way. And Tybe still hasn't come bot. Again, I have massive problems with how the bot lane plays the lane, but at the end of the day, when your jungler gets no prio, the mid laner can't roam. So like, what are you supposed to do? Anyways, NME just like IMT. This is one of the things, right? Like this is just never should I ever do this. The Ezreal is so slippery, and you're just gonna take 3 tower shots. And they know that the jungler is not clearing his red. Well, they don't know jungle. They don't know where jungle is, right? They don't have vision. Yeah, they have no vision on jungle, but they know where mid laner. They know where Meals is. Like they know that Meals literally just walked up that direction, and the fact that Gragas hasn't seen him yet means that he's walking back down. Like, at best, you're taking a 3v3 with one of your members on no health. This is just not okay. This is what I mean by IMT tries to do some wild ass shit. They try to get away with it, and it would never work. Anyways, the bot lane has, I suppose, stabilized. Stabilized is a term I use loosely, of course. I mean that it's not a complete and total utter disaster, it's only a partial complete and utter total disaster. So yeah, this game has been over. It was over since 2 minutes. How can, like, now if you're enemy, what do you do in this situation? The problem is, I suppose you just reset mental. Like, I think this is just one of those mental reset games. Anyways, to make pace, I will go with 2x. Like, the positive is that your Caston has 2 kills. I mean, that's the only positive. But it is a positive. Like, if you play through a hyperscaling mid laner, maybe. Like, I agree with the idea to take Rift Herald first, or Dragon first from NME, because, like, Rift Herald doesn't do much in the sense that, like, you're not going to have lane prio, so you can't use Rift Herald if you don't have lane prio. So yeah. The other thing is like at this point you're trying to scale. Like the earlier you fight, the worse it is for you. Yeah. And like I don't know, Sandwich is still getting bullied in lane even when it's not a terrible matchup down like 400, 500. No, it's 600 gold. God, I can't do math. Yeah, down 600 gold-ish. Or no, what? Oh, it was wave stuff. What the hell? Yeah, it was wave. So he just hadn't cleared wave. He's bound about 300 gold even then. Like, I don't know. It's just, you're losing everywhere. I suppose you should probably play strong side bot if I'm enemy. I'd just be like if I'm enemy coach. I'm not. I wish. I'll never have that much clout. Um, the idea here would just be to play strong side bot from my eyes. You've got really good carries in Jackie. Like you got carries and meal. So like I'd say like play weak side top, get Sandwich on a pick where he can just kind of play the game and not have to worry about getting solo killed. Like even though he's down, he's now like doing fine. Did he get a solo kill? No, he's got the counter gang stuff. Right? Yeah. Yeah, he got the gang stuff, so it's like whatever. Yeah, but like even then, like now that he's gotten a kill in lane, you can just kind of let him do whatever he wants. Like if Sandwich is like Sandwich is like somebody that I'd love if he was a weak side top laner. I don't think that he's necessarily a weak side top laner right now, but I think that there's not enough weak side top laners in NA. Like Araki Zoro's a strong side top laner. Suki, was a weak side top laner, at least in my eyes. He did get a lot of ganks. I'd say he was like a sometimes weak side, but like he was a mostly weak side top laner in my eyes, which is like a good quality. Like if you can play weak side, you're good, especially in competitive. Like it takes a lot of like skill to play weak side top lane, especially in NA. Especially like because not necessarily like because the NA skill level is so high, but just because there's not a lot of skilled weak side top laners in NA, at least in my eyes. Anyways, as we sort of talk about this game while IMTs try to close this, like I actually try to not let this massive gold gap close. Like they're just gonna keep clearing wave, push it up, slowly take more like space, especially since they have the ability to with that Herald breaking open that center turret or the mid lane turret. And like every neutral objective from now on, you basically have to fight for if your enemy or the IMT lead gets bigger. And like you can't win a single fight if you don't have like a perfect team fight. Like even Meals there had like a really good opportunity, just can't convert. Anyways, time to talk about support items since I've got nothing else to talk about. I don't like Sickle. I think that a lot of people are buying Sickle. I don't know if, well, at least Charm does for Nami. I don't think it's good. I think that like even on Yumi, people were considering buying Sickle at first, but the lane control that you get from the Relic Shield is so good, and it's so useful that I think that you just kind of have to buy Relic Shield, right? Because like if you can just Relic Shield the first few waves, you at least establish a state where like maybe you won't win lane, but you'll go even, and that's really really nice to be able to like be able to be confident that your lane will at least go even is really nice, right? Like because like if this lane went even, enemy are in this game, right? A lot of this game is from that enemy early lane loss, and so like if you think about this as in can my lane go even, I think that's a lot better. Obviously, the enemy early lane loss wasn't because they played poorly; it was due to other factors as well. The let them on early blue side clear stuff. Interesting that Hoon is not going Frozen Heart third. Two AP items into Tank Gragas has been a lot more popular, especially at CA. Asia Invitationals where it first really popped off, I'd say. You know, you got that like if few good games from the Korean teams where they would play like they would go like what two? Yeah, it was basically this build except they'd go into like the AP items like or eight the armor items like I think they didn't go. I think because I think this is Lichbane. I think they'd go like Frozen Heart. I don't know if they went Frozen Heart or like they'd go tank though. Like after this, they'd basically go tank build. Sometimes building extra like the slow stuff, like this one, the fist. It's not Frostfire Fist. I don't know why I'm thinking of the PC name. And then like the heart slows attack speed. But like yeah. Anyways, talking about Rift Masters because this game is over and I'm sort of podcasting now. Rift Masters allowing double support item means that double support item will be the meta in NA. No one is good enough to play solo support item roams. I can tell you that now. IMT might be able to pull it off, but Charm doesn't roam that much, especially early. So I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah, but I believe it was confirmed earlier that they were gonna play double support item. So yeah, expect that to be the meta tomorrow. Um, Game 3. This game is probably the most interesting game, specifically for a few reasons. First of all, it's the one that enemy win. And second of all, it's the one where Ty really just kind of goes fucking wild. So, we're gonna skip to the end of draft here. Because there's a lot to talk about. So first of all, this is game 2. So first of all, we're gonna see Zyra calling out from Jack Yasami. Zaya, so for those of you that don't watch SEA or Snapdragon APAC, the way to describe the meta for ADCs is flavor of the league. Zaya was super popular, I think day 4. Yeah, day 4. She kind of fell off. I think she saw maybe one game in day 5. And then Kaisa became really popular day 5, day 6. And so it's like, it's flavor of the week. Obviously the good ones are always good. Varus, you got your Ziggs, your Luxes, your Ashes. Ash specifically saw a big resurgence in day 6. That's where I've been getting a lot of these draft picks from. So yeah, I don't think Zaya is a bad pick. Even if some people don't necessarily agree with Zaya. The problem that I have with this draft is that I think Twisted Fate is not a good pick. I think, although Twisted Fate provides a lot of utility in rotations and movements, I think that you'd rather have an AD mid laner. And I will consistently say this. This is my take that Twisted Fate is not good. I think Riven, and then you put AP in the bot lane. That's my take. The other thing that I think would be a good one is like Cat's not good because like they obviously want somebody to like be an assassin. Gwen wasn't legal. I know I'm Corky. That's another one. Corky's a good amount of damage. Catherine obviously. I'm not a fan of Diana. Just as a side note, I think Ari's okay. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody though. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so like the reason this is a comparable draft to me, right? Because from Nigma, I consider the Lucian Yumi to be similar to the Zyricon, where they're going to take advantage of like the innate synergy the two characters have, and sort of try to use that to force a good fight. So yeah. Anyways, I'm lost in the sauce. But the problem. Okay, this gets into a bigger problem. This is a bigger drafting problem I have with NA. But like put For God's sakes, put AD mid, put AP bot. Please, just let me be free from this suffering of trying to figure out which AP mid laner works the best with this comp. Ooh, 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 ah. Just don't play AP mid. It's not good. It's not. Suffering. Okay. Anyways, right. The problems here are multifold. First of all, Jace Renekton is a fucking hell of a 1-2 for red side. It's just you gotta ban Jace. Let Olaf let Camille through the draft. Camille is not good. I'm gonna say that now. I don't think Camille's good at all. I don't care how good Lemon is on it. Camille's not good. Ban Jace. Please, for God's sakes. How many times are we gonna have to watch team lose to what is effectively Jace Renekton? Ban those two fucking champions against IMT and just make them draft. Please. I'm just watching a brain trust. It's like a slush money. Losing my mind. Okay. No more sidetracking. No more sidetracking. Anyways, as I get to my last pictures here, what do I got? This is for game 5, I can tell you that much. Zed. Oh, don't even get me started on NA and not picking Zed for some goddamn reason. Pick Zed. He's so fucking good. Okay, we're gonna get back into the game before I lose my mind. Anyways, the point of this is there's a lot of synergy here. The the, the problem is that I don't think that Twisted Fate will ever have Prio in mid to use his ultimate, and so that's where you get into the problem. Anyways, looks like a spectator crash. I'm pretty sure happened something like that. This bug, who knows? Just get me into the game, please, buddy. Please, for God's sakes, get me into the game. Okay, 5 seconds in. Poggers, we're slowing it back down. Okay, as I become further lost in the sauce, I will take a big sip of water. Okay, I've finished my water for the day. It's time to think. This is a thinking man's game. Thinking man's Wild Rift. That's a dog shit name for a channel. So, few things. Obviously, we see the Lethal Temple Zaya, as opposed to, I don't know, like a Kraken Slayer build, I'd guess, but Lethal Temple is probably really the only room. Aftershock Recon as opposed to Electrocute or Font of Life. Again, I like the sprint, specifically on Zaya, because you can get a lot more value out of her ultimate. This is one of those Jackie was right scenarios. Please remember this, because this will come up later. Jackie was right. So, going into this, obviously not a lot to talk about in terms of runes, in terms of summoners. It's interesting that they have exhaust on their con, but that's because Jackie wants to go sprint, pretty obviously. I think that it's very clear, at least in my eyes, that Jackie's MO is to go sprint. Iraqi Zoro, or Lebamon's doing the same Jace jungle clear. And Sandwich is just going to do Garen things. You're going to lose trades early, but the idea is to sort of eat that and just sustain through the lane. As long as you're not behind, you're good. TF has Prio in mid. Not really that surprising, especially level 1. Ranged matchups usually favor the ranged, especially against range versus melee. Tiger comes in for early Prio gank. This is funny because I like the adjustment. I think this is a really good adjustment from NME. Because if you know that Lebmont does the stupid ass clear, you can just go level 2 Prio gank early. And since he knows Lebmont does the stupid ass clear, he's going to. This is I am in love with this adjustment from Tybe, right? Because Lebmont does the stupid ass Jace jungle clear constantly that doesn't make sense and isn't good. So Tybe makes the adjustment, to go instead start red, which usually isn't good. You can sort of get away with it on Lee Sin though, so I'm fine with it. You can start red, you can go Raptors, you can get level 3 really quickly, you can clear out, get mid, get prio, and then roam around the map. Which stops Lemont from doing his stupid ass clear into blue steel, into top lane gank, into tower plays. Great adjustment that is really necessary for them to win this game. Also, good deep ward. Unfortunately, I'd argue it's a little late. Now that you've seen that he's cleared Raptors, it's not going to get as much value. Mid lane getting prio, or bot lane getting prio. You love to see it. This bot lane has been sort of suffering. Good ward placement means that they'll spot out and they'll kind of back off. Yeah. Anyways, this is where things get wild. So Tybe has no fear on the Lee Sin. Interestingly, we can see a few things here. We know Sandwich took Demolish, and we know Tybe didn't, which is very interesting because that means that he took Hunter Genius. I think. I don't see why he'd take anything else. Maybe. I suppose there's an argument for Nimbus Cloak. I doubt he'd take Honey Fruit because you're not guaranteed to get a lot of value out of that. It's interesting that he didn't take Demolish specifically, because Demolish is very good in these sorts of scenarios where you take 2, you gank top, you get 2 proxy Demolish off, you get like 300, you get like 100 gold or something. Anyways, since Hoon was forced into an early recall, he's going to be coming out top lane instead. Araki Zoro will get away, and Tybe loses that first death. But there's this just kind of wild exchange where like it's a 2 for 1. And it's like, well, that's not good. But then you realize that Immortals are down a lot of farm, right? Look at all of this wave. And that's a lot of farm that Araki Zoro ends up missing. I think it's about 2.5 waves, including a canyon wave, which is a lot of farm. So they're still down about 300 gold even with that kill, which is why that I don't think that play is bad. Not to mention Meals is pushing mid. He's getting a lot of XP, a lot of turret plates, or only like a half a turret plate, but he can convert that into stuff, right? It means that he's pushing mid, he has prio, he can use his ultimate to get around the map and make plays. You can see that Jackie, or Asami, is also ahead on his support item transformations, something you really like to see, especially for your bot lane, which is Zyrecon, which really needs to be ahead to do damage. So yeah, you really love to see that. Prom should hopefully be getting his support item transformation about now, right? He still doesn't have it? That? Oh, you just got it, yeah, okay. That's what I figured. So about 345 to about like 310, which is like a very good time. If you're, if you're enemy, you're happy with where this is at. You're about 500 gold up, even though you did lose those 2 early kills. Your bot lane is winning, which is like has been an important factor in how you do. Also, Meals is able to sort of roam around and make plays because he's a little bit ahead and he has that mid lane grab. See the lane swap coming out. Other than that, interesting thing to point out, Devori quick blades on Jackie, which I don't disagree with. I think that the efficiency of Devori quick blades early is very, very good. The gold efficiency on that item is fucking ridiculous. It also is like very good for cooldowns, which should be pretty long on Zaya. I think it's very good. I'm a fan. Jackie was right. Anyways, 4-man gang top using Twisted Fatal, pretty good. So the reason a lot of people think Diana is good is because her ultimate clears wave, but she's just an old bot, which means that I don't like her. I don't like a lot of these characters that are just old bots. Charm just kind of does nothing here. He's just trying to stick around to make sure that TF can't recall. Makes it a lot harder. Anyways, so we're gonna see what looks like a 5v5 top early. Ty gets in some good damage onto Lebmont, but like they're doing a very good job of team fighting here. You trade out the Garen for the Prom. I think that's a trade you take almost any day of the week. I like that trade. Anyways, Hoon's kind of trapped in here. Doesn't have. He's gonna try to he's trying not to use flash. Looks like, but he has to use it eventually. Good sort of collapse using the feathers, and then Ty just kind of does his thing. A big theme of this game is that Ty just goes fucking ballistic. Like boom, boom, boom. So Hoon does make it out. As you can see though, Zaya did use Sprint Flash, so she's not have summoners up for a few minutes. And she's gonna try to drop the Herald top to get that first turret and first turret gold, which is very good to have, especially on Zaya. Right? She's, in my eyes, probably the most snowball-y AD carry that's actually good. It's like there's obviously the argument that like Vayne snowballs really well and Jinx snowballs really well, but I think like they're kind of bad. So I agree with this. You can see positioning around the dragon already, trying to get positioning. And like Tybe is just getting a lot of good angle. I'm really a fan of like how Tybe manipulates the angles here, right? He's getting a lot of good sonic waves in, which it's just information. And like just having free information is very good. Like, because if TF doesn't have to pop his ult, that means they can't really disengage. And so now, like, TF's going to pop his ult, they're going to run away. And so his ult can't get as much value as you'd like. But they do find the angle under an Ecton here. Yes, TF's going to come in behind, hit the stun, they just collapse under an Ecton. Really good collapse, right? This is why it's important to shut down Renekton early. That early kill against Renekton, right? Put him down a few hundred gold, especially when he lost all of that wave. Like that wave and a half. Since he lost that, he's now behind. Anyways, IMT probably thinks they can fight this. Just because, like, look at the health bars everybody's halved. And, like, I don't disagree. But it looks like they're just actually going to go for the mid-turn instead. Again, not a bad decision. You look in this scenario, you're just like, since TF Ultimate was used, you got a tower for a kill, which is, I mean, that's a trade you take any day of the week. It's a very good trade for you. So yeah, not to mention, enemy can't really reset here. They've taken a lot of damage. They kind of have to give up the dragon as well. So the thing to point out is that I think that enemy just needs to collapse a lot quicker there. Like, it's very... The amount of decision that you can make in this scenario when it comes to things like going to dragon and whatnot is very limited. And so you should always try to be going as fast as possible. Especially against IMT, who don't seem to have an answer to this sort of tempo that enemy are doing. And so I think that like the enemy adjustments have been really good. I've praised the enemy adjustments because the way that IMT have been winning these games, as I ignore the massive societal collapse of enemy on my shoulders, is that the way that IMT win the games is that they've gotten ahead early. They do that fucking asshole clear, right? Goes bot side. Blue buff. So game 3 goes red. Red, Krugs. Type has prio. Type prio. Early. Mid early. So no early invade.
Inside the team fight, Charm connects.
What the fuck? Why did he unmute? Okay, so, anyways. Yeah, so this is just a good collapse, right? They get a little bit too deep into the jungle here. And they're able to collapse using the Diana dash resets. And the Braum ult. It's just one of those scenarios where it's like, if you're an enemy, I think that was the right play to make. In the sense that the play that you made was not, like, it wasn't the right play to make, obviously, because you lost out on that play, but the play that you made wasn't incorrect. Jackie uses both flash sprint there. I think that's very hasty. Again, sprint is an offensive summoner spell in most cases. It can be used as a defensive one, but I think that it's important to ration your summoner spell effectively. Right, like now they know you don't have flash, you're a free gank target basically. And so I think that's something you have to look out for, especially like using your summoner spells is very important. How you use them as well. You'd see Zai going for a lot of lifesteal here as well. So yeah. So enemy are kind of in this weird scenario where they don't want to open up the eye or like expose the back to IMT, but at the same time, if they stand in front of the Rift Herald, they will be walking towards IMT. So just one of those like weird odd end scenarios, but yeah. So just not great zoning, which like comes from a lack of two things. First of all, the Jace poke, right? Like you can see Jace is doing a lot of damage here. Tybe tries to get an angle, but like he doesn't have flash, so he has a lot less range to get an angle to kick. They're also the only really good kick target is Moon, like because Lebmon is just way too far away, and so is Gume, right? Like there's no value in getting a kick on Gume right now. So it's just like one of those scenarios where like just a poor zoning due to factors that you can't necessarily control, just like how the Herald is positioned and what the Herald is doing, and like just no good angles, right? Yeah, because you can just see the Herald just drops like a fucking rock when the eye gets opened up back here. And that's like, again, why you kind of don't want to turn it around, but at the same time, oopsie, can't really do much. Yeah. The other thing is like you're kind of taking a 4v5 here. Not a fan of this Jackie positioning. When you have the ability to reset, going out this way, like this is again why using your flash is very important. Because if you have your flash, you can position yourself right here. And then flash over this wall with your ultimate to get out of trouble. But since you don't have flash, you are very limited in your positioning option. And so you kind of need to go here, where you're safe to retreat under towards your turret, which you don't have and you don't have a tier 1 turret. Or you need to go all the way around, right? You need to go through here and like all the way around, which you don't have the time for, and also isn't safe until you've seen where Renekton is. And like Renekton's been kind of sitting in this bush for a minute. It's a ratty play, and I love it. Asami tries to get some value there with the ult, but just not much he can do. Like overall, just a good play by Immortals to steal, or I wouldn't necessarily say steal either, like a forced seal, like that makes any sense. Like they forced the give up. of the Rift Herald there. Interesting, again, Diana's going not Rabadon second, but instead she is going Crystalline Reflector. Just, again, like, I'm not exactly sure if that's the right build. I'm more of a Rabadon second. I think that the AP is more useful. But I think that, like, Crystalline Reflector, especially second, is overvalued. Like, you're overvaluing the use that your abilities have, especially against what is a relatively, like this team comp is not going to be necessarily aiming at you specifically. They're going to try to be getting a lot of damage in onto Gume. But you're the seconds, like Gume and Lemon, I'd say, are the priority targets. Like, you're just going to try to be stunned so that you can't ult. That's it. Anyways, you can see bush play here, scouted out by the what's the name of that? The trinket sweeping lens. Good kick leads to a nice kill onto Charm, which allows them to really kind of take this mid turret. That is why, right there, that is why Demolish is important on Lee Sin, right? If he has Demolish, he takes this turret, and he doesn't have to take these tower shots. And that is why I always tell people, that is the #1 reason to take Demolish right there. That's why Demolish is so good, because Lee Sin, oftentimes, you don't necessarily need him using damage. Like, he's sort of like an assassin, right? Where, like, once an assassin like Akali or Katarina has expended their cooldowns, they're not really as useful in the teamfight. And so I think that once you have that, providing alternative value in the form of Demolish is very good. Because you're just getting a kill in this scenario, right? And you haven't secured a tower, so you basically have a kill for top tower, which is not worth it at all. Especially that, like, right, like that protection into the jungle. Like, we've seen Leblanc really likes to run into that blue side of the jungle and just, like, take your camps. And especially taking the mid turret specifically, that trade is so worth it. A kill for the top turret and the mid turret, like, the top turret for the mid turret is almost always worth it, especially if it's tier 1. Obviously it's a bit different if it's like tier 2 or tier 3. Like the inner turrets, but and then like a good, so they're just trying to make sure, right, like now you're in the reset scenario, you just gotta make sure you're clearing out your jungle, not giving up anything silly, right? Like, you want to make sure you're trying to clear out all of these minion waves, push out some waves so you can get control about these objectives, especially for when dragging comes up in about, like, what, 30 seconds. I've kind of exhausted all of my stuff that I wanted to say, unfortunately. Interesting to notate that the Jace, or no, the Renekton build is going, I thought Black Cleaver was standard first, but I might have been wrong about that. And that doesn't sound right now that I'm saying it, so. I don't know much about TF builds, but again, like, I think just having an AP bot laner is so useful, because it means you can play AD mid lane, which is really fucking good. And that will constantly bother me until I'm gonna harp on that. Until people in NA start getting the point. AD mid lane is the wave, okay? Like, because you can put Garen mid lane. People don't understand how good Garen mid lane is. And then Riven Zed. Ooh, that's spicy mid lane. Ooh, spicy mid lane. Zed. Akali. You can put Renekton mid. Like, all of these characters that aren't super heavy AD, or characters that are like if you're putting an AP assassin mid, I'm okay with that. If you're putting a AD assassin mid, that's also fine. And then ADers, like, those are the mid laners that you want. AP assassins, because you're not having much AP on your team probably, and that makes AP, like, indexing into AP a lot worse. They're still running AP, so it's like whatever. But like AP bot laners are just so much more effective. They scale so much better than AD in this game. and I think it's just so good. Okay, so we're getting in this scenario where like, well, it's time to just take Infernal, and they're just not gonna contest. I don't know why you wouldn't contest Infernal here. Maybe they just weren't aware that it was being taken or something. But like, that's a give up that you can't do. Um, yeah. Anyways, Jackie's position here is very aggressive. He's gonna use sprint. He's gonna use flash, right? Try to get out because he is effectively the carry. And so that's really important that he does escape, even though he does have to use both of his summoners. You could still reset, and like they don't really have time to take Baron, especially with the health bars. And meanwhile, Meals is like going and getting that bot lane kill turret, which is really nice. I don't know what that was. That is not it for Meals. Maybe it's just been a misclick or something, but yeah, not a great TP. Bad use of the ultimate. Anyways, as we ignore these commercials, I will explain it. I don't know what I'm explaining. Just making up things as I go. Yeah, making up things as I go. I guess for my now new podcast, the 2 hour VOD reviews. I hope you all know that I'm starting to lose it. I'm off the goop. My commentary has greatly degraded, and I can tell. Interesting again. Like Zaya is doing something here. I don't know what it is, but they're doing something. Looks like it's a Triforce build. Anyways, this entire fight, right, is based off of this bad TP from Meals where they try to rescue him. And like, just let him die. I hate to say that because it sounds bad, but like, if your one guy is in there and it's like if he's unsavable without giving up two, let the one die. Like Meals is not that worth it, unfortunately. As for now, IMT are going to take Baron. Other than that, interesting to note. God, I've said that too many fucking times. So they don't have enough HP to take Baron. Meals kind of sticks around and tries to force him off it. Okay, now that I can talk about it, but Garen is not building the more traditional, what you'd expect of like, oh, he's gonna go Hullbreaker. It's more of the new style Garen, which is not. Okay, so Garen time, baby. This is the M Blaziken guarantee, you know, like the Plaid Chat guarantee, but worse. Um, so the Garen build that Sandwich is going for is good in the scenario that you are ahead, because what you'll do is you'll go Black Cleaver Sterix Death Dance, and then you can sort of be an AD scaler. Not necessarily in the same way that like someone is Renekton is an AD scaler, like a Bruiser or a Darius, but you can still be the AD scaler for your Bruiser for your team. I don't think that's max value here for two reasons. Like, you want to go like, I think it's like, probably want to go like Black Cleaver full tank, which is weird to say, obviously, but like, Rakan doesn't usually stack health. He is going to in this game, but like, you either want to go split push to counter Renekton, you want to go that Hullbreaker build, so that like Renekton can't match you in the side lane, so that you can win the 1v1 and like, right, make this like 1-3-1, where where like the enemy team is sort of like they're trying to beat you in lane, but they really can't because you're a tanky monster who doesn't die, with like grasp and with your passive with regeneration, with second wind, and then like with the Hullbreaker, giving the minions buff, giving yourself a buff. Or you want to go for that like full tank build where it's like we'll go Black Cleaver, we'll go what? We're like Randuin's second. No, probably like Thornmail second or Randuin Sterix. I'm lurking it out in my head, but the idea is that you go full tank, even though Rakan's going full tank as well. Speaking of which, Rakan builds, where I'm gonna unpause, otherwise it's gonna take forever. But Rakan build, I don't like Guardian second. I think that it's better to go Warmog second because the amount of health that Warmogs give you is so big, and that's so good. Just big health, better number. Especially when you're trying to index against one AP carry. Especially like Diana, it's not necessarily the most effective to go into like a force of nature. Um, there maybe is an argument for like a Zeke convergence, obviously, because of how that works with your ultimate with Rakan, right? Like you're getting a lot more value out of your ultimate then. But like I think that Warmogs is just a lot better for the AP because Diana's going to go in this scenario. 100% she's going to go like what? She's gonna go Rabadon, Sword Staff, Moronomicon, something like that. Pretty much 90% of the time. And like if she doesn't do that, she's going to like go Rabadon's Infinity Roar, no, like she's building a lot of Pierce, so like you're not gonna get a lot of value out of that sort of, like anything that's not HP is gonna give you a lot less value. As I talk over this team fight with no like sort of. This is just like they take advantage of the meal ult. He's able to get a quick reset off, right? Extra blasting wand is very good, especially in fights like these, right? Where it's like if the game is close, the extra effective value that you have can make all of the difference. And so Tyve's gonna hit a really nice kick here on Gume. Meals is great. Like they get a really good team fight here. Stomach gets a nice ult. He's able to get in and out very well. And Hoon is able to collapse on a Jackie, but like even then it's a 1-for-1 trade where you're trading your ADC for their jungler, which is a trade you take 85-90% of the time. Because having your jungler up means that you can secure neutral objectives, and like even though your AD carry is very good at having, it's not as useful as your jungler. Yeah, so that's a trade you take a lot of the time. And then now they're just kind of skirmishing back and forth. I don't think there's necessarily a lot to say about that. But the one thing that I'd like to point out is that Tybe's having a really very good game. I don't think it's like necessarily like a great game. It's like he's popping off. He's popping off. That's basically what I'm gonna say. But like the other games haven't been bad from him, but just the effective value that he's getting, right? Like his efficiency is being converted at a much higher rate than it was previously. Yeah, so now Jackie is getting into copium territory. This is where we would start to say Jackie was wrong. Triforce, I don't think is that good. I think that you get a lot more value from Infinity Edge. Same with, like, because he's going Serialdus, that's no doubt. Pretty sure the build path. I think that you get a lot more value from that, like, from Mortal Reminder style items where you get Grievous Wounds as well. Because there isn't a lot of application for Grievous Wounds. I mean, even though Tybe has it, like, I think that it's still better than Serelda's, at least in my eyes. But then again, it might not be worth it because Tybe already has Serelda's, and he's going to be getting on to, like, the carries. And I don't know, it's one of those situations. Anyways, we're going to pause here because Tybe is about to go ballistic. First of all, it's a 4v5. Why is it a 4v5? Well, that's because Tybe goes schnasty. It's a flash kick right there to just basically secure the kill onto Diana, right? So this is just Immortal's hubris getting to them, at least in my eyes. Because like there is no reason to fight this. You have no reason to fight this at all. You've already gotten 2 dragons. You've already like you're at parity, which means that you will be ahead in stats, and at the same time, like, you're down a man. There is no reason to fight this, and like they just decide to, and they lose the fight. Like Tybe hits a really nice kick onto Lebmont. Lebmont gets burst down, and so it's like, yeah, damn. And so Tybe's gonna keep going in, and he's just like, yep, boom. They get the ace. This basically lets them steer the game, right? Because like they're not gonna go for Baron, but like Home will only be up. The rest of the team respawns in 40 seconds, so they can just kind of run it down mid. Boom. Yep. So they're just gonna run it down mid, kill Hoon, and that's the game. So like again, the thing that I want to point out that Immortals didn't do was they didn't get early mid prio, and like they let Tybe on Lee Sin, which is obviously very comfortable on. But like I don't think that was like a necessarily make or break difference. I think the big part was, in my eyes, the fact that Lebmont couldn't get early mid prio and couldn't get that early lead that Immortals really like to scale from. That is what Immortals have been doing to win this series, right? And so now we're getting into game 4. And so for those of you that have been paying attention, you'll know that this is the final game, because I don't have any more pictures. That's right. That's what you all been waiting for. We're back to the pictures. So, we're going to talk about Misfortune and Rengar. Fuck, did I click out of the image? God damn it. So, here you can see the draft. We got Garen, first pick, into Renekton Rakan, Nunu, Zed, Singed, first. With IMT having banned Lee Sin, Senna, Jace. NME obviously then would ban the Karma to make sure that there's no sort of weird shenanigans going on. There's no trading, obviously, if Senna's banned and Karma's up. Banning the Olaf, which they haven't let through the entire series. And then banning the Gragas. So yeah. First of all, I think that the Garen pick is bait. This is the biggest bait Garen pick I've seen in my life. So, actually, is this before swaps? I can't tell. Yeah, this was before swaps. I was like, what the? There's no way they picked Garen first. Yes, Lucian, Renekton, Nami, Rakan, Garen, Misfortune. So here's the problem. You don't get anything by picking Misfortune Red 3. You should have picked Rengar Red 3, banned out junglers that counter Rengar, Misfortune Red 4, Singed Red 5. The reason that you should have done this is so that you can insulate your Rengar against the counters like Nunu, like tank junglers with bans. Because that is what's important here, is that the Rengar has a good availability of targets. And Nunu and Garen make that impossible. Same with Nami. I think the Rengar is just an awful pick here. There's no denying that. But if you're going to pick Rengar, you've got to make sure that you insulate it with bans into characters like Garen and Nunu and Lord. Boom. Rengar pick. Look at the enemy team. It's not going to work out because you have the Nasus tank, Garen tank, Nasus slow, Ashe a lot of utility for slows. Did I not pick up the good Garen? There was a game where somebody proceeded to ban out Garen before picking Rengar in SEA, I think. I guess I just didn't take a photo of it. But anyways, the important point is you're not going to be able to get much value out of Rengar here because of how the enemy's composition is drafted. Even if you do get onto the back line, you don't get value because like the front line is still really good at dealing damage. Anyways, these two are we'll get into these later. Right? Stay on topic. Stay on topic. Stay on topic. Anyways, like the important point is that like yeah, Kha'Zix is a better pick here. You've still got Wukong up. He looked good on Wukong earlier. I don't know why the fuck you banned Xin Zhao. Like, well, okay, well they haven't picked their jungler, so that makes sense. But like, you could pick Echo. You could pick, I don't know, fucking Evelyn. Rengar is not good. Now that Suzaku is disbanded, I can stop coping and say that Rengar is not good. He's not a good character. He's not good. He's a high burst, and the reason that high burst works is because your enemy has a lot of squishy targets with no front line. Nuno and Will shuts that down immediately. You turn on your snowball, Rengar gets hit. He is revealed. His ult does nothing. This is why you play Kha'Zix instead. Other than that, Zed. I've been raving about Zed picks the entire game. I'm gonna explain why once we get into the game a little bit. But Zed just does so much damage and is so good. Other than that, I love the Singed pick, but it's gonna go to the wrong lane. So, let me explain this, right? So this Singed pick is actually super mega ultra big brain because he can match Garen in the side lane with like Rylai's, with like, you know, you go like, I don't know, like, what? It'd be like Rylai's into Imperial Mandate. Basically anything that you build on Nasus and Morgana except without Luden's Echo on Morgana. That sort of build. It's very good. I like it. But the problem is that when you do this, you that's not the problem. The problem is that you cannot play Renekton into Garen past level 5 because it's gonna build Hellbreaker. Anyways, now, as we talk about Misfortune, because I haven't talked about the bot lane matchup, you're just gonna get fucking rolled. Like, Misfortune does damage, a lot of damage early. She's very good level 1. We'll see that in game, right? Like, she's very good at trading level 1, but past that, she doesn't do a lot of damage, and so that's the biggest problem with her. That is why I always recommend someone like Lux. Like, this bot lane is a lot better. Like, you run like Lux Rakan, and you have a lot of AP. You don't have to Rakan. Run your Rakan full AP, which is very bad. Never get that twisted. Rakan full AP is dog shit. Please don't play it. But yeah. So we're getting into it. So I think I've explained my problems with the draft. Hopefully I've like my brain's going to mush. I'm trying to articulate my problems with the draft. Hopefully it makes sense. But yeah. So here's the thing that you'd want to do, right? You want to put Singed into Garen and Renekton into Zed. And the reason for this is that Renekton can sort of match. Sorry. I just saw Renekton's rune. I'm Minecraft. Yeah. Minecraft myself, yeah. Okay. No tangents, no tangents. The reason that you put Renekton into Zed is because Renekton can sort of match Zed in that ability to burst the other down, right? So like where Zed goes to burst Renekton, Renekton hits with a stun, hits him with his like his little spinny, hits him with a slice and dice dash, and then suddenly Zed is in a scenario where he can't afford to all in Renekton because Renekton can all in and match him at the same time. That is the value of Renekton in this game. That is why you should put Renekton in the mid lane and let Meals play him. Obviously, Meals' champion pool probably isn't super experienced on Renekton. A lot of NA mid laners aren't experienced on AD champions, which they need to play, by the way. They should always be playing mid lane champions. NA. I refuse to go into the zone again. We will not be doing this again. Alright. Anyways, as I continue, right? Renekton doesn't necessarily have a bad matchup. Garen with level 1, level 2, level 3. But like past that, you sort of run into issues. Anyways, Jackie ends up doing a lot of damage to Charm here early. A lot of it off that crit, and a lot of it off the aftershock onto her as well through evolution. They're getting a lot of good poke. Like this is a winning lane so far. Lebmont's doing the stupid fucking clear again. I'm gonna rail this clear. I'm gonna fucking I need to. Okay. I'm probably gonna put out a video later. We're gonna do the we're gonna does nobody pay attention to like actually how people clear? Like the reason that we don't start red is because starting red is so much slower. Like Rengar is already almost done with his third camp, I think. Like Rengar has an awful fucking clear. Let's not get that twisted. And he is almost on pace with Nunu. Like that is insane. Anyways, guess who's getting mid prio again? Smile. You can't see me, but I'm smiling for the camera. I wonder if it'll happen again. Will he go invade blue? Anyways, we'll move in. So we'll see Tab going in again for this sort of early top lane gank. I don't necessarily call it a gank because it's not really like killing. But this is again, the value of Demolish in this scenario is so good. And you get so much more value out of having Demolish because you can take like an extra plate and a half of turrets. And that's like so much value. So yeah. Other than that, moving on to top lane matchup. Why Kraken Slayer? What's Kraken? You know? The reason that you don't go Undying Grasp on Renekton is that it loses a lot of value late game. And Renekton falls off in the late game anyways. So why would you choose to lose value on like a rune that won't really help you early game to the extent that you'd like for a rune that, and it won't help you late game either to the extent you like. So you're getting no value, right? Like that's you're purposely taking lower value. If you want to play Renekton, play Conqueror because you're going to be autoing a lot anyways. So you're going to be getting a lot of that vamp, and like you're going to be building Bork, so it's a lot of vamp for you anyways. Still very good. Again, also interesting that he didn't take Longsword first. A lot of Renektons have been taking that first. Raki Zoro's been taking it first every single time he played Renekton. But yeah, so he's winning this top lane matchup early. That will not be the case once Raki Zoro is able to build up any sort of item base. So yeah. In the jungle matchup, you can see it's relatively even. Nunu looks to be about a camp and a half ahead though, just based off of clear speed. Yeah, so they're you can see that they're very accurately picking out. They know where the Rengar is, what he's doing, right? Because they know that Rengar started red, and so they can basically track that if he's not there, trying to contest for Scuttle, he's probably clearing out his red side camps. So yeah, they have a very good idea of what's going on. Anyways, 500 gold up. Not much I like to see. Like the way that IMT have been winning this game is those early leads. And so the last thing that you want to your enemy is an early lead. Interesting again that Charm chooses to take Sickle. I don't think Sickle is good. You lose a lot of lane control from it. And I also think that like the value that it gives you in gold, you'd much rather have it evenly distributed than this sort of weird semi-distribution. They're going to scout out Lemont there. Tybe is not seen. This is the other thing about Rengar, right? If you're not getting kills early, you're not getting value. Um, you need to get a kill early and kind of snowball your lead to have any sort of impact. We saw that in the Asia Invitational. Like the one game where Rengar was picked when he got an early lead and was able to snowball, he was able to do a lot of damage and a lot of stuff very well. I say stuff like it wasn't a bunch of complex ideas from macro and shit, but like kill good, you know, stuff like that. So we can see black cleavers for top, Rylai's for the singed, and then yeah. So good kill for Misfortune, right? Taking advantage of that ult. But yeah, again, the problem is that like as you go later into the game, if you don't get a bunch of kills and get ahead as enemy, you will be like so far behind in the ability to do damage because you have an assassin. You have Renekton who kind of falls off late game. He doesn't fall off as bad, especially post buffs, but he falls off to a certain extent. You kind of need to get on squishies to do damage. Then you have Misfortune who also falls off late game if she's not ahead. Yeah. Again, this is why Zed is really, really good. So first of all, right, you have the ability to dodge CC. And second of all, you do a fuckload of damage. And Deathmark is, ooh, it's crispy. Like, Zed also has a great escapability. He's got great, like, item build differentiation. You can build, like, kind of be whatever you need for the team. Like, if you need just a lot of damage, you can go the Electrocute. If you need more sustain, you can kind of go the Bruise rebuild with Conqueror. I'm of the opinion that the Conqueror is better version. Brazil may tell you differently. But Brazil also plays Zed jungle, so I don't listen to them. So yeah. It looks like Bork top Renekton. Garen finished Hullbreaker, which means that he's now a menace in the side lane. As you can see though, they've switched Meals to matching him, which is good. That's what you want to see. It looks like Meals is not going for like mandate second, which was what I would have expected. Especially since O'Reilly's Leandry interaction was nerfed. I'd expected him to go for mandate because mandate does a lot of damage. Looks like he's trying to go for maybe a dead man's plate to have that movement speed. He can sort of catch up with Garen. But yeah, NME are just kind of getting out fundied right here. I also think it's a bit of a team comp diff. This is an interesting draft for NME. It's very clear they had an idea in mind, but I don't think that's an idea does not necessarily represent a good idea, right? I think it's worth a shot that what they're giving here, but at the same time, it's not an idea that I would say can efficiently compete with the sort of meta strategy that IMT have built here. I argue this is just a meta draft. Again, I think they sort of stumbled on it by coincidence, not necessarily by some sort of master plan. I think that if you have this sort of drafting, you just take it out earlier, because Zed's really fucking good. Zed, I'm telling y'all. The big Z. Good support item transformation times, looks like. Well, they're not on their third yet, but you expect them to be getting the third around 9-10 minutes. If you're doing pretty poorly, you can usually hit it around 11 or 12. That is a stat that I'm going to be looking at for Rift after, by the way. One of the big things that's really important to me is checking out like how the new support items play, what the average support item timing is. So you can check my Twitter out. Check me on Twitter, @MBlazingHugh. Follow me. I need clout. Yeah. There's not a lot to talk about in this game. It's just kind of a fundy diff. Like IMT are just kind of rotating around better. They have a lot of tempo around the map, and you can see the enemy just reset as the the Herald spawns. They have no chance to get it. Anyways, this should be enough to take the tower. This Herald, I don't think it's gonna necessarily do like enough auto damage on its own, but like with 1 or 2 autos, it should be dead. I guess it is just gonna die on its own. And they're gonna have a good gank on bot lane, right? Like, just like look at, it's like a lot of good coordination. The Nunu taking advantage of the ability to, Nunu will never be a built AP, even though Riot may want that to happen. It's not gonna happen. But Nunu tank is still very good. And like you can just see like Zed just doing so much damage and just runs away for free. Does have to use flash though, obviously using flash isn't free, but like, he maybe could get away even if they had still chased further. The other point is that Misfortune has started to fall off. The problem that again I have with Misfortune is that she falls off insanely hard. At least she does damage some point in the game, unlike Jinx, but we'll get into that later. I'm gonna make my own little tier list video. I've sort of run out of things to say. I'm gonna probably just end it here, honestly. We're gonna speed up to 2x because this game is not. This game is a more macro focused game, and I don't have the brain capacity to do that. It's 9 here. I've been recording for 2 hours and 30 minutes. So yeah. Anyways, okay. So moving on, right? This is the Rengar draft. I don't care about this. The point that I wanted to make is that if I am an NME, here are some drafts that you should look at. I'm highlighting this draft, even though this isn't necessarily a draft from the best teams, especially in APAC, but it's got a lot of super interesting things in it that I think are very cool that I haven't highlighted already. First of all, right, Zed. I'm gonna keep harping on this. Zed Akali. Meals is a really good player. A lot of NA mid laners are kind of cracked. So just put them on carries. Let your jungler fuck. Let Meals fuck. Like put your jungler on a carry potential and put your mid laner on a carry potential. Right? Like the thing that I have about NA that is the biggest problem is that no one trusts anyone else to carry. Just like look at this team and how many people can carry the game. Orianna can carry the game if she hits a good shockwave. Jax can carry the game if he gets ahead. Akali can carry the game if she gets a few good executions. Lee Sin can carry the game if he gets a good kick. Nautilus, not necessarily to the same extent as other carries on the team, can carry the game if he starts like if he gets a lot of good CC chains, stuff like that. Same with like again, not to the same extent. Zed can carry a game. Shyvana can carry a game. Set again, he's not playing top. Obviously, he's like playing support, but he can, to the same extent as Nautilus, carry a game. Same with things like Riven. And so like the point is, let your teammates succeed, right? Like just put everybody on a fucking hyper carry, and just like see what happens because it doesn't feel like that happens enough. Obviously, this may be something that happens in scrims, but I don't know. So, shrug. The other thing is, for God's sakes, ban Jace. The amount of times that Lebmon has gotten Jace is insane to me. The other thing that I'd say is ban Lucian. Like Jace, Lucian should be your target bans if you're playing IMT. Where Nectin is obviously a problem. He's not to the same extent. You can counter him with things like Garen, with things like, the Singed. Like I'd argue that he has a 50-50 matchup against Zed early game, and like late game it's kind of different obviously. But like you can play the Jax into him. Like he is the best top laner. He is the meta top laner, but he is not the top laner to end all top laners. So yeah. And the second thing is, right, like Kha'Zix. For God's sakes, pick Kha'Zix and out. Like Kha'Zix is so good, and no one in NA plays him, and I don't know why. Other than that, right? The difference in these games has been the early tide mid-prio. When the game is close, it's early mid-prio, but here's what Lemon is going to do. He's a one-dimensional jungler. And like especially throughout this whole tournament, like this is what bothered me about him, is he does this shit constantly. He's going to clear red, he's going to go Krugs, he's going to go Raptors, and then he's gonna clear mid, he's gonna roam bot, or he's gonna roam top, whichever side blue side is really. And then he's gonna just try to get a few demolished procs off on a turret or a gank. And that's it. That's really all I have for my conclusions. 225, probably my longest video yet, but hopefully it was good and enjoyable. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Goodbye.